Hey guys, Permaswerve here, aka Adam. I don't know why I say my Reddit username first, because I guess now I actually identify more as Perv than I do as Adam Romero, which is a really strange thing for me. Anyways, I wanted to get on here and do a semi-scripted video about length pumping. Length pumping is something that I've seen come up a lot in probably the last 6 months. I didn't really see much about length pumping before that. And in the last 6 months, it's gained some traction. So, what is length pumping? Okay, well, length pumping is using a pump for the express purpose, and a lot of times using only a length pump or using only a pump to increase your erect length. Now, why is length pumping different than regular pumping? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked. So, length pumping specifically is using a pump that is at or even slightly below your erect girth. So, that means that if your erect girth is, I'm just going to use numbers that I can deal with in my head. If your erect girth is 6.5, that means that you are going to be using a tube that is like 2 inches, because let me do this math really quick. Even that's actually a bit of a stretch. So a 2-inch tube is 6.28 inches in circumference. So yeah, let's say you're 6.5. If you were using a 2-inch tube, then that would be you basically cramming your dick into a 2-inch cylinder, which is exactly what I did. So I have a midsection erect girth of 6.5, and I, with the help of lots of Vaseline, crammed my penis into a 2-inch tube, probably for about 3 months, 2.5, 3 months solidly. I took a long break from any actual extending, not as a part of a decon, but just because honestly things with the company got so busy that I just didn't have the mental wherewithal, or the mental just like, go get them, to even do extending, and like fuck, doing an interval based protocol, because that was just like way too much. So I just used my handy dandy auto pump, and I would set it to 10, or well, for me, it's measured in kilopascals. So for me, it wasn't 10 inches of mercury, it was 33 kilopascals. It's roughly, kilopascal is roughly triple what an inch of mercury is. So for about 2.5, 3 months, I stopped extending altogether, and I was just using a pump. And at that, I was actually using a length pump. And so I did this for a couple of reasons. I did this because I wanted to continue to gain length. I wanted to investigate length pumping. And I wanted to just be a lazy bastard. And so, using the auto pump and just sort of, greasing my junk up and, cramming it into a 2-inch tube seemed like the way to go. So my experience with length pumping after 2.5, 3 months, I've got to look. I really want to say it was nearly a whole 3 months. It was no small amount of time. Here are my results. My results were, I didn't gain any length at all. In fact, I lost length. I lost length because I stopped extending. And clearly, using 33 kilopascals or 10 inches of mercury is not enough of a stimuli to continue that growth. Now, I could have guessed this was going to happen because I wasn't reaching the length in the tube that I normally would have reached in an extender. And so, in the tube, I was reaching anywhere from, it depends. It was like right between 8.75 and usually 9. Whereas in an extender, by like the middle or end of my session, I'm usually at like 9.25 inches. I was not reaching that at all. And in fact, I bought a 2-inch tube to test, a 12-inch by 2-inch tube to test this all out, because I knew that I was going to be, maxing out the regular 9-inch tube if this worked right, which it didn't. And so that was my experience with it, was that not only was it not a sufficient enough stimuli to cause any new length gains, it was insufficient even just to keep my length gains from extending. And so I did lose a little bit of size. So yeah, it wasn't anything massive that I lost. It was, about 1/8 of an inch or something like that. Something that I would expect to see on a normal, 3-month decon. So, it didn't set me back a whole lot, but since I have started extending again religiously here in the past couple of weeks, that's come back plus some. And I'm really excited about a couple of products that I'm working on, a couple of theories and things that I'm testing right now. And I can't get BD to not make video. I can't get him to keep a secret. He wants to make a damn video on this latest thing that I've been experimenting with so bad. He literally texted me about it just earlier today. And I said, please don't, just wait, because I have a product that I'm designing and I would love to be able to give that to you guys at the same time that I tell you my results with, what we've been doing. So, couple of points. Regular pumping has been shown to be sufficient for putting on size in terms of length and girth. However, it does so very slowly. Pumping is the slowest method of penis enlargement that there is. But it is one of the most proven. So it works. It absolutely works. It just works very slowly. So there is the potential that 3 months of just length pumping wasn't enough time. However, I sort of doubt that, because if it wasn't enough of a stimuli to keep the gains that I had from extending, then obviously it's not able to, there's not an equal amount of tension being provided. So I was using about 10 pounds in the Apex extender when I stopped, and obviously 10 inches of mercury. And I was doing it for an hour. I was really going for a pretty long time. And, I have some really great videos coming up on how to combat edema, because at that point I was starting to get edema pretty regularly. But I found out some really cool, tips and tricks that I'm going to pass along to you guys on how to avoid edema and how to, deal with edema if you do get it. But 10 pounds on an Apex extender for 45, 50 minutes, it does not equate to 10 inches of mercury in a pump for 1 hour. I definitely learned that, because if that was the equation, I wouldn't have lost any size. I would have at least maintained size. So therein lies the first problem. I think that length pumping could potentially work on a very, very unconditioned penis, like a brand new penis, like newbie, like the first 3 to 6 months. I think length pumping could probably work. But that's sort of like when you go to the gym for the first time. Like you can go to the gym and you can do nearly anything and you're just going to grow muscle and you're going to lose fat. Like you can do squats and your back and your bicep are going to get bigger, you know? So it's sort of like, I think in the beginning, you can probably do anything. And then as you grow, both, you know, in the gym and, you know, in the penis gym, you need to be a little bit more specific about what you're doing. You need more specific stressors so that your body adapts in very specific ways. So my hypothesis is that length pumping would have worked for me had I been able to use higher pressures, you know, say maybe 15 inches of mercury. But that for me was just untenable. It just would have been too painful and it would have been unsustainable for me. Also, I think at that level, you're starting to get into, you know, territory where you may be developing densification of the tissues and fibrosis and a whole, you know, other host of issues starts to kind of pop up. So whereas with, you know, weight hanging and extending, you can, you know, pretty safely go up to, we've seen guys go up to 15, 20 pounds, you know, pretty safely. It seems like with pumping, it seems like there is a pretty universal max of like, once you go over like 12 to 15, you're just going to start having, you know, issues with edema and stuff like that. Now, I'm talking about, you know, routines that are using equitable amounts of time. So like an hour of pumping and an hour of extending, something like that. So, so that may be the issue. That may be the issue is that, you know, pumping has a, you know, upper limit to which you can sort of do it. And it may be that if we could just continue to go up and up and up and up and up on the pressure, that, yeah, it would be fine. But that's just not the case. There are just too many things that end up happening with the lymphatic system and the cardiovascular system that cause the edema. And so it's just not good. It's really just suboptimal. So the takeaway of this video is that when it comes to length pumping, there are just way better things that you could be doing with your time. If you are looking for length, pumping is going to be the slowest way to get there. And, you know, most guys, I know they want to get the most out of their routine. They want to get the biggest, the fastest they can. So, length pumping in my book, at least for me, has been proven ineffective. And I hope that at least I have brought up some points for you to consider. If any of you guys want to make a formal rebuttal, please, you know, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. And if any of them are worth, you know, consideration, I may write another article or do another video on them. But yeah, that is my official takeaway. That is my experience and my thoughts on length pumping. In summary, I think length pumping is stupid. Just do regular pumping. There's not necessarily, you know, any indicator in my mind or any real reason that I can think of why narrowing the tube. I mean, I get the underlying premise. It's like you know, you're limiting circumferential expansion so that you can maximize length expansion. But after a certain point, honestly, you just tap it out to the point where it's like you can't go up past this certain weight or past this certain pressure without, you know, experiencing massive side effects. And so the takeaway, as I said, is that if you are looking for length and that is your number one priority and you want to get as big as possible, as fast as possible, length pumping, not helpful. And I don't even consider it to be a helpful adjunctive, to be honest. I think that if you're going to use pumping as an adjunctive to length work, I think that you work on, you know, getting expansion from it. So use a pump cylinder that is slightly larger than your erect girth. So yeah, that is my official video on all about length pumping. I hope you found it useful. Please, guys, like, comment, subscribe, share if you feel led to. And appreciate you guys going to www.massivenovelties for all things PE. And until next time, I will see you guys later.